INTSUM also recorded,
Many theories continue to be suggested for the pattern of the bombing, and certain rumours were current during and immediately after the Ballymurphy disturbances that there was a plot to tie down the military to West Belfast, while targets such as a power station or the giant Harland and Wolff crane were affected. Comment. Such reasoning is not devious as might at first be thought, but is not at present borne out by the facts. The riots and the bombing followed upon one another and did not coincide. Other rumours, however, served a more obvious purpose, such as that during the 1969 Hooker Street-Disraeli Street troubles, when attempts were made to incite the crowds with stories of shooting in Crumlin Road.
The British Military Intelligence Summary concludes,
The latest wave of explosions and the failure by the security forces to apprehend those responsible continue to give cause for concern. The facts would suggest that they are primarily the work of an extreme Protestant organisation intent on inflaming the sectarian issue and on causing the downfall of the present Northern Ireland government.
British military leaders had little faith in the police work of the Royal Ulster Constabulary too. In similar INTSUMs, paper trail found for the month before, March 1970, Major Timmis informed his brigade commander, quote,
The lack of progress on the bomb explosions and a complete absence of worthwhile special branch information generally emphasises either their weaknesses or their reluctance to impart information to the security forces, or both. However hard units may try to assess the situation and produce reliable information, little can be achieved without the full cooperation of special branch at all levels, and especially at the top. Furthermore, no real success can be achieved in penetrating the various subversive organisations, in particular the extreme Protestant ones, until an organised informer network is established. In the final analysis, it can only be the Irishman himself cooperating with Special Branch, who will provide the sort of reliable information upon which the security forces may act with some guarantee of success. In the meantime, the military continued to be seriously handicapped for lack of worthwhile information or Special Branch cooperation.
The British Army mistrust of the RUC went further. Regarding the theft of an RUC rifle on 13th of March 1970, the brigade commander is informed,
Yet another loss by USC, Ulster Special Constabulary, this time a rifle. It was removed from a car parked outside the Travellers' Rest public house. The USC owner of the weapon had stopped off for a drink before proceeding to guard duties at Divis rebroadcasting site. Comment: an uncanny number of USC arms go missing regularly. The loser is quite likely to be not quite ignorant of the lost weapon's whereabouts.
Back to the INTSUM regarding the wave of explosions and the election the following month.
The political scene is currently dominated by the South Antrim, Beatty and Bandside Paisley by-elections on the 16th of April, 3 days from now. The recent troubles have undoubtedly proved beneficial to the Paisley cause. Nevertheless, since the weekend, the signs would suggest that it will still be a close fight, especially in Bandside.
Both Paisley and Beatty won. The following INTSUM covering period 14th to 21st of April 1970 began.
If anyone had gone to a bookmaker and backed the Paisley and Beatty combined ticket a month prior to the election, his chances of a win would have been poor. The halt in the bombing wave is a welcome relief. This is probably due to the PUP Paisley's Protestant Unionist Party election successes, although recent intensified efforts by the security forces to catch those responsible may have deterred the culprits temporarily.
A stop to the attacks on Unionist politicians was only temporary, as there was an explosion outside the home of ex-Unionist MP Richard Ferguson, who had resigned his South Antrim seat earlier in the month after being expelled by his local association for being too liberal. That seat vacancy was then filled by hardline Beatty. Timmins concluded in his INTSUM for the 21st to the 28th of April.
The Stormont government continues to be pressured by its more extreme Unionist members to adopt a harder line and to rescind a number of the pending reforms. The widening split with their party constituencies confirms the disappearance of the moderate group, if it ever existed. It seems that the government is becoming less representative of the Unionist electorate. The death of Dr. Laird will afford the Paisleyites another opportunity to infiltrate Stormont. It is hoped that the government will remain firm and thereby promote confidence. By so doing, the moderate, silent majority may subsequently re-emerge. This is unlikely if known moderates like the ex-MP Mr. Ferguson continue to be intimidated and attacked without the culprits being arrested.
History books have since posited that this attack on the Ferguson home was the work of the UVF. It appears that the British Army recognised it at the time as a continuation of the targeted wave of UVF attacks throughout the first half of April. When the house of another Unionist was attacked with dynamite on 24th of May in Carrickfergus, the British Army INTSUM for the period recorded,
"This attack smacks of the bombing of the former Lisbon-based MP Richard Ferguson on 28th April, who spoke out against PUP electoral gains, Reverend Beatty. Both attacks are attributed to the UPV/UVF.
Reading the secret British military intelligence summaries today, the wave of alleged UVF false flag bomb attacks in 1970 were just as historic as those in 1969, which blew O'Neill out of office. They may have even been more successful, as they not only helped blow Paisley into office, but they remained hidden for 55 years. Paisley won O'Neill's old seat and then secured a seat at the British Houses of Parliament in June 1970. Until then, it appears that the UVF was actually the greatest destabilising paramilitary organisation to the Ulster Unionist ruling party and not the IRA, although the UVF deliberately stoked those fears and the British Armed Forces failed to inform the public that these fears were manufactured. So, history was made in April 1970, but we still had the opportunity to roll back from violence and offer equal rights to all citizens. That opportunity may have disappeared within weeks following the Battle of St Matthews and the Falls curfew. The hardliners won, and we dug in for a war that lasted a generation. The waves of bombing and false flag attacks also began a pattern of willful collusion and cover-up of Loyalist paramilitary violence by the British Armed Forces and a capitulation by Ulster Unionist politicians to Loyalist threats. The media, of course, remained stenographers for the state. This all continued throughout the conflict, but was most evident just before internment in August 1971. The British Army had provided the names of around about 80 alleged Protestant extremists to be included in the original swoop, but the Northern Ireland government and RUC demanded that they were taken off, and they were indeed. Instead, the highly discriminatory internment policy was directed solely against the Irish Catholic community until February 1973, by which time Loyalist extremists had murdered around 120 Irish Catholic civilians, including 15 civilians in the McGurk bar massacre of 4th of December 1971. The British Armed Forces not only covered up for the UVF bombers of McGurk's bar, but also disappeared evidence and blamed the innocent civilians in the bar that night. One of the dead was my own grandmother, Kathleen Irvine. Ian Paisley, of course, went on to have a long and history-making career in politics, which ended in his term as First Minister in a devolved power-sharing stormont from 2007 to 2008. Nevertheless, we will be arguing about his negative or positive impact on Northern Ireland society throughout his journey from sectarian fundamentalist and civil rights opponent until his Damascene conversion to power sharing with Republicans in 2007. His change of heart was too much for the political party and the church that he created, and he was unceremoniously dumped by them both a year later. Hopefully students of history will learn more about his close connections with militant Loyalist paramilitarism, as it did not end with the UPV-UVF in 1970. Paisley helped set up the Third Force in 1981 and Ulster Resistance in 1986, and Ulster Resistance's armaments, smuggled into Ireland with the help of British intelligence services, were not decommissioned and can be used whenever suits this next generation of hardliners. They haven't gone away, you know.